What's up, everybody? So this is Jacob Brown from Sportsbet Rex, and today what I'm going to go through is based on your league structure, the amount of teams in it, and how many players at each position start, how you can go about creating your draft board for your fantasy draft that's coming up as football season arrives here. So first things first is bringing data in to Google Sheets and then getting it to Excel. Some of these sites let you download straight to Excel for free. Some of these sites that have the yearly projections um, make you pay to download to Excel. So here's a way to bring it into Google Sheets. Basically this formula here where you use import HTML, put the site that you're downloading from, then put that in quotations, comma, quotations table, comma, 0, brings all the data in here. So just kind of give you an example. I'll copy it here. We'll go ahead and delete that. And if I was to bring that back in, we get all the data right here. So just put it into cell 1 and you'll be good to go. It brings in the whole table and all the stats. I just hit all the other cells here because all I'm worried about is at the end of the day, the points right here. And we have some systems at Sportsbet Rex that you'll have access to eventually through these videos that project points for you for the week and things of that nature. But for the purposes and the simplicity of this example, we're just going to bring some fantasy points projections in from another site, which there's a ton out there that you can choose from, obviously. So now that we have all this in, we got the quarterbacks, we got the running back information, we got the wide receiver information, tight end, defenses, and kickers. And like I said, this is bringing in everything. All we really need is to hide everything and bring in the fantasy points. Then you can go to File, Download As, Download into Excel. So you're good to go there. Once you bring it open, you'll have it here. Here, I'm going to use this sheet where we kind of already manipulated everything, and it's good to go for me to walk you through it. So first things first, you want to type in your league structure right here on this first tab. So here in column A and column B, just teams and amount in your league. So how many teams are in your league? A lot of leagues have 12. I'd say probably the most standard is 8 to 10. We'll say this league has 8. And then your quarterbacks, how many quarterbacks are going to start in your league each week are per team. So starters per team, most leagues 1. There are some dual quarterback leagues. Running backs, most leagues 2. Wide receivers, most leagues either 2 or 3, depending on if you have a flex. We'll leave that at 2 for now. And then you have your tight ends, your defense, and your kicker. Typically, all of those are set to 1. So this is a pretty standard league here that we're bringing in. So from there, like I said, you brought this all in from Google Sheets, so you have all this information now. And basically, you have your quarterbacks tab, your running back tab, your wide receivers tab, your tight ends, defenses, and kickers, just as we had in the Google Sheet. So from here, basically, we have the fantasy points. Obviously, that doesn't show their true value. And so how do sites go about ranking these players when they don't know how your league is set up? I don't know. But when your league is set up and you have this structure in place, there's a great way to go about ranking them yourselves once you have the projected fantasy points. And that's what we're going to go through today. So basically here you can see that what we have here is a number, so the 6. So that's just to say there's 6 quarterbacks that get to start in this league per week. And then here we have the average of the largest 6 fantasy point numbers. So basically this is taking the average here of the largest and column S of the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth largest values. So it's not the first 6 cells, so that makes sense in this case because we sorted by fantasy points, but it's just the 6 largest values. So they could be really in any order, and it would still take the 6 largest. As you go down here, we did the same thing across the board, all the way down to 32. If there's a 16-team league where each team has 2 quarterbacks, then every quarterback in the league would get to start each week, and that's where quarterbacks become more valuable. Okay, so now that we have that all set up, we move on to the yearly value and how we get that number. So basically, what this system is telling us, Aaron Rodgers is projected to have around 337 fantasy points this year. If it was an 8-team league, there would be the league average each week would be around 305 fantasy points, or that would be the league average for the year. So quarterbacks would typically for the year bring in 305 fantasy points. Aaron Rodgers would be at 337. So what we want to get is the difference between that. So how much value is Aaron Rodgers bringing you throughout the year compared to the average quarterback? And the answer here is 32. So how we got that number is we take his fantasy points here, S2, and then we subtract this huge sum ifs formula, which is really not that intimidating compared to other formulas that I've written for fantasy sports. So pretty simple formula here. It's basically a sum if where it's summing column W if column V equals league structure B1 times league structure C3. You can see here's the league structure tab. So it's equaling 8 times 1. So it's moving here, summing 305. You can also do a VLOOKUP here. I like SUMIFs a little bit better. And so then it's taking 337.34 minus 305, and that gets you to that 32. And just to kind of show you that I'm not lying to you here, 32. So you can see that that's how it's all set up. Running backs the same way, except for we went a little bit farther down to 50 to bring this formula in. And so the VLOOKUP will go all the way to 50 if, say, you have a 10-team, somehow you have a 10-team 5 running back league, then it would bring in the 50. Because 50 starting running backs there would be 50 starting running backs each week. Wide receivers brought in 50, tight ends brought in 32, defenses 32, and kickers 32. And then it creates a draft board automatically for you. So what you would do here is you, before you sorted it, you would just bring in each player, his yearly value, his position, and his team by just basically bringing in running backs D2. So running backs D2 is David Johnson. Aaron Rodgers, you can see quarterbacks B2. Right now we're already sorting by rank, but you can just bring those in, drag it all the way down, do the quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, do every position. And then this rank formula is just simply taking the yearly value and ranking them based on their yearly values. And then when you sort it, you have your draft board right there. So pretty easy setup for the most part. Here, let's review a couple of situations where the draft board changes. So you can see here our league structure. There are 8 teams in this league, 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, 1 tight end, 1 defense, 1 kicker. Here would be the draft board, and that pretty standard league. Aaron Rodgers would be the first quarterback you should take if you had position 6 and these 5 got drafted ahead of him. Gronk is actually in this situation probably a good value pick at 5, and I'm guessing he would drop deep down, so Gronk would probably be a good pick wherever. Injuries probably aren't taken into consideration too much with this fantasy points value, so you could pull from a different site if you don't feel comfortable with that. You can change this fantasy points from a different site as well if you want to just pull in everyone else's from this one and then just change this to 132 or whatever you think Gronk will get throughout the year. You can change those, and that won't change the structure of the sheet as a whole if you don't have faith in a certain player where you want to move his points back. So basically, like I said, I dragged the points in from a different system, but the system that we created here is to rank the players based off of how much better they'll be than the average starter throughout the season. So let's go ahead and try this out. So let's say you're in a 12-team league instead, and you're in a league that has 3 wide receivers. So basically 36 wide receivers will start week in and week out. So wide receivers now become much more valuable. So when you get to the draft board, you can see that. And when we resort this, we see that Julio Jones jumped to 5th, Odell Beckham jumped to 6th, Mike Evans jumped to 8th, Aaron Rodgers went all the way back to 9th, so you wouldn't take a quarterback until 9th in this situation. Tom Brady back to 16th. So this is another good kind of example as to your draft board should differ based on the structure of your league. Let's go into another example real quick, and let's say that you have 2 wide receivers, 2 running backs, and you're actually also bringing in 2 quarterbacks. It's a 2-quarterback league. So 24 quarterbacks will now get selected. Let's see what that looks like. You can see here Aaron Rodgers jumps back up to 4th, and Tom Brady jumps all the way up to 7th. So that's another good example of, hey, in 2-quarterback leagues, it's really actually smart. Drew Brees here all the way up to 10th. It's smart to take these really good quarterbacks early on that kind of build up your stats. One more example that I wanted to share is, let's say you have an 8-team league, but and 1 quarterback, but you have a flex position who can be a running back or a wide receiver. I typically just put in a half here, and it'll take 8 times 2.5 because half the flex positions would be running backs, half the flex positions would be wide receivers, and that's what this is looking at here. So that's when it'll change again. And you can see here, Drew Brees went from 10th all the way to 26th. So it's really important that you use a tool like this and don't just use a common draft board, because quarterbacks can be much more valuable in certain drafts compared to others. And same with every position. Quarterback's just the easiest one to kind of play around with and show. So here you can see again, kind of similar to the previous draft boards, but quarterbacks went down a little bit. Aaron Rodgers went back to 7th. And then top 3 are all running backs again. Antonio Brown moves back in the 4th. Gronk still 5th, and so on and so forth. So this is, again, just an awesome tool. Very easy for anyone to create. Just wanted to get it out there so that people can create this based off of their league structure, and then they have this all set up and ready to go, and their draft boards all set up and ready. Thanks again for listening, and please continue to look into the different videos that we'll be showing on on Sports Bets Rex, and we'll continue to share things around fantasy football, but not only that, which teams to bet in the NFL, which teams to bet in the NCAA, which teams to bet in MLB. So all sorts of different betting advice when it comes to the sports world. Thanks again.